This week, we have an old bench vise that we're going to take on. It needs a little bit of restoration and renewal, some paint, some rust removal, a few things not working correctly on it. And we're going to come up with a really slick way to mount the vise onto a bench in a way that is not permanent, where it can be easily mounted and easily removed. So stick around and let's go do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by to check out the video. We're back in the workshop today, and we've got a project that's going to unfold in two parts. We're going to be tackling a sort of a restoration of an old vise that I have that was given to me by my dad. So it's the brand is Wilton. I've had it for a long time. My dad gave it to me few decades ago, actually. I don't know where he got it. I don't think it's terribly old. It's just one he had, I think a spare, wanted to give it to me for my shop. I've used this off and on over the years, but I've never actually mounted it to anything. So one of the things that we're going to do is come up with a solution that's going to allow me to mount that vise to this workbench, but on a temporary basis. So whenever I need it, I can pull it out, easily get it mounted to my bench without having to crawl under the bench. And when I'm done, just easily unbolt it and put it back up on the shelf until I need it next time. So we're going to tackle that in the last half of this video. The first half is going to be breathing a little bit of new life into this vise. It's obviously been used quite a bit. It's got a few issues. The handle here, it has a nub or whatever you call this on the end so that it doesn't slip out. But on this end, that's gone, and it's just got a piece of tape to hold it on. So we're going to see what we can do maybe to correct that. It's rusty. That's easy enough. We'll take some sandpaper, steel wool or something, maybe some evapor rust, whatever it takes to remove the rust, get that sanded down, get that nice and bright. We'll mask that off. We'll actually spray a fresh coat of red paint on it. We'll grease everything up. But the biggest issue is down here in the base. This vise is supposed to actually spin on this vase, but it doesn't. And it's pretty frozen up. So we're going to have to tackle that as well. And then once we get the vise all set up, I've got what I think is a pretty slick idea for getting this mounted to the bench. And to do so in a really simplistic, no hassle sort of way, so that when I'm done, I can take it off and put it out of my way. My bench is kind of small. It's only, oh good heavens, not even 4 feet wide, I don't think. I think it's 42 inches wide. So I need all the space I can, so I don't want a vise in my way whenever I have no need for it. So let's get on with this. I think we'll start first with tearing this thing apart to the extent we can, getting things fixed on it, sanded down, masked off, painted, and then we'll move on to getting it mounted. Well, let's see here. Where do we want to start first? Let's see what happens. We just continuously turn this. I think this will come all the way out. Yes, there we go. All right. I think I'll leave that handle in there for the moment. Otherwise, I don't want to risk losing it. So there we go. We've got that. This piece, boy, this thing is it is absolutely frozen up. I think we're going to have to get a little bit of penetrating oil and see about spraying that in there, letting it sit for a bit, and then we'll come back and see if we can loosen that up. Okay, as usual, good old WD-40 penetrating oil. See what, I'm going to spray a little bit in there as well. See if we can get some in from the top side. Now we're going to need to just let that sit for a few minutes. And then okay, so that's been sitting for just about 5 minutes. Should be enough. Let's see. Oh, geez. Okay, there we go. Oh, yes. Well, that was simple enough. Let's go ahead and see if we can remove that all together. Okay. Well, it all looks like it's in good shape. Again, it was just seized on there with a little bit of rust, so I think all is good. Now, let's see if we can get the base off. Pardon my arm. I tell you, I know there's a lot of different rust penetration sprays on the market, but I've never had a situation where WD-40 penetrating spray did not work. So, not sponsored by these folks or anything, and they're not paying me in any way. It's just a darn good product. Okay. Well, there we go. I think we largely have this apart. Actually, we have one more piece. Let's get, what we're going to do is get this piece off of here. There's a little cotter key we have to straighten out here. All right. I think we can probably reuse that. Washer. And we'll go ahead and just go ahead and cut this old piece of tape off of here. There we go. There are two more items we can take loose, and that's these in the clamps here. These are removable pieces, and that's so that if they ever get worn down and you need to replace them, you can. I want to see if we can get those out of there. I might need to use some no, it looks like that screw is coming loose. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised this thing is not rustier than what it is, but it's coming apart a little bit easier than I thought it would. All right, so we got that half. Do this one. All right, I believe we have it fully disassembled. See all our pieces here. We have the main body, the base, the adjustable part of the clamp handle. We have our, I don't know what you call these. Again, they're just the faces that go on each side of the clamp itself. And they're perfectly fine. We don't have to worry about replacing those. We have the base handle. We have the two big screws or nuts that go on the bottom of the vise. There's our screws that hold these clamp faces on, our cotter key, and of course our gear. So there we go. All right, so what I've got here is just a bucket with some hot soapy water. We're just going to literally dunk these things in, give them a scrubbing with the hot soapy water, and bring them back out, dry them off, and then we'll start sanding and doing anything else that we need to do to further the prep ahead of painting. My dad was always looking for a bargain, and I don't know if that shows up or not. It says $3. So somewhere along the way, my dad picked this up for $3. So I am not surprised. All right, so I've got all of those washed, and that's got the bulk of just the heavy dirt in that off of them, and a lot of the old grease in that. So I think the next thing I want to do, I've got a few pieces here, like the plates, the face plates that go on each side of the actual clamp itself, that are pretty rusty. The heads of these screws are still pretty rusty. Yeah, so I think what I want to do is get a little bit of evapor rust. Actually, anything here that's got even the slightest bit of rust, we'll let that soak overnight, and then we'll come back and continue. Okay, so our metal parts are actually still soaking. Let's see what we can do here to start to clean up some of these bright metal surfaces. Okay, so I think we have the main parts of the vise all ready to mask off and paint. We still have some smaller parts here, nothing that's going to get painted, but they're still soaking in the evapor rust, so we'll just let that keep cooking for a bit. But in the meantime, we've got, this is the main screw auger has been cleaned up. And we have the small handle that goes onto the base, which has been cleaned up. We have the main handle to run the vise in and out, has been cleaned up. We still need to do something on this end after we get it placed back onto the vise so that it doesn't slip out. So haven't come up with a solution for that yet, but I will. And then of course we have our three main pieces. The base, I have cleaned everything off. This will get some grease on it. Likewise, the auger will get some grease. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and just put some masking tape on the parts that, or areas of these parts that we don't want paint on. And then we'll take it outside actually and spray some fresh red paint on. That will do it. So we'll take these three pieces out to the outdoors, out in the backyard, and we'll set them up and give them a coat of paint. All right, so now we're going to, while the paint is drying, we're going to go in here and get our other pieces that have been soaking in the evaporust overnight. All right, so we're done with the painting, and we're at a point where we're ready to reassemble the vise. So here we go. Here's all the parts together. So I wasn't striving for perfection here, keeping in mind that this was a $3 thrift store or flea market find based on some of the telltale signs when I first started working on it, like the $3 price tag that had been written on it. But I did want to make it look halfway decent. It is something my dad gave me, so just out of respect for him. And we've got everything, I think, nice and shiny. So we're going to start putting this together, and I think we'll start first by putting a little lubricant in some key areas before we actually start assembly. So let's get started with that. All right, so what we're going to start with here, I'm actually going to be using, and I'll explain why here in just a moment. I'm going to be using some Vaseline, or just basically petroleum jelly. This one happens to be cocoa butter, so if nothing else, the vise will smell good. The reason why I am using this as opposed to a grease is I may want to use this vise to hold pieces of wood, things of that nature, and I don't want an oil or a grease to be present that might find its way onto the wood. So if petroleum jelly gets on it, it's not a big deal. So all we want to do is just give this a nice little coating. We'll do the same thing on the bottom of this piece. Now for this screw, I am going to use just a little bit of 3-in-1 oil, simply because I don't want these parts rusting up. So just a touch. Now, the next thing we have to do is to mount the handle for the base. Again, we'll just put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil in that unit, and that's going to go in through the bottom. So we should have plenty of movement there, and we do. And we can tighten that down. That will work. So that's got our base on. The next thing we want to do is put the plates back on the actual areas that things clamp to. Now, we need to get our adjustable half of the clamp. Oh, so I mentioned earlier on about the handle here and the fact that this end was missing off of this end. So the solution I came up with is I just drilled a hole right into the end of this handle, big enough to accept a hex-headed screw to go in there, and that seems to work. So nothing fancy, but it definitely gets the job done, so I don't have to worry about the handle falling out again. So pretty simple fix actually for that. So let's go ahead. Well, we got to do one thing first. Again, I want to do the get a little petroleum jelly. There we go. The washer over that. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. We have one more thing to lubricate here. That is this portion. So there we go. I think I need to tighten this screw up here just a little bit. There we go. All right, there we go. That's much better. So now we've got it completely reassembled, ready to use. So we're going to move on to the next step, which is mounting it to my workbench. And we're going to be doing it in a way so that I can easily remove it when I'm not using it, so that I don't have it in the way. So let's move on to that step. All right, so here's what we're going to be doing. Now I have a small workbench, and of course that's the primary reason why I really need to be thinking about not taking up too much space with things. You can see here, it's not a very big workbench, but it's big enough for pretty much anything that I would be doing. Now, in a perfect world, a bench vise would be mounted on the corner, and that would provide room on two different sides if needed. That's in a perfect world. I don't do a lot with a bench vise. I just have occasional need for one, and it's usually pretty basic stuff. So what I'm going to be doing is pulling it over and just mounting it in this area. So I'm not going to take advantage of trying to mount it on a corner. I just don't think I'm going to gain anything by doing that. And I believe this will put the vise in a better position for what work that I need to do. So there is one thing that we have to make sure of, and that is where we position the vise so that if we have anything clamped in it vertically, it clears the edge of the workbench here, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so what I've done is I've just clamped up a yardstick, and what I want to make sure of is that in terms of how far back from the edge this vise is positioned, that it doesn't exceed the ability for me to be able to mount something vertically. So it looks like about right there will do it. That way, you know, anything that's I've got clamped up in the vise here, it can extend down, right? That's the main thing that I want to make sure that I have the ability to do. So if we just look at this here, I'm just going to eyeball it, and I think we're good right there. So what I'm going to do is get a marker out and mark 4 holes. All right, so I just have a Sharpie. I'm just going to go in and circle each of these holes. Just like that. Going to unclamp my yardstick. We'll move that out of the way, and we have our 4 holes there, and now I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to be drilling these holes out, and I have a threaded, well, let me just show you. All right, this is what we have. These are 3/8 inch brass threaded inserts. So I'll be drilling a hole, and these are slotted at the top so that I can get a nice big heavy screwdriver into them. And then we'll screw that into the workbench until it's flush with the surface. So I have 4 of those, and then I have 3/8 inch bolts with a washer. And what I'll be able to do is simply set the vise, line it right up over where those brass inserts are at, and just screw in the bolts, and my vise will be plenty sturdy. So, and then when I'm ready to remove it, I just have to remove 4 bolts, and I'm done. I don't have to crawl up underneath the table or do anything like that. So I think this is going to work. These are really sturdy. I may use some epoxy. I'm not sure yet. I'm just still mulling that over, but I do want to make sure that these don't have a chance of spinning once I've got them in. So I'm thinking I need to put some kind of adhesive or something that will ensure that they stay stationary and aren't compromised as I'm taking these bolts in and out whenever I have to use the vise. So let's go ahead and get the drill out, and we will drill out these holes and go from there. Now that should be where we need to be. Now I'm going to get a large screwdriver. Now we're going to need something a little bit bigger. We might actually have to go one more size above what we just drilled there. Let me just run this through here one more time. Okay, what we're going to do, I've got one started here, and what I've determined is the best way to get these into the workbench is just, once I get one of these inserts started, is just insert a bolt using the adjustable wrench. And as soon as this washer bottoms out, we'll have the insert in exactly where we need it. And that should do it right there. Okay, so now that we have our brass inserts in place, let's go ahead and mount the vise. So what we're going to do is just make sure that we have it aligned over each of the holes, and it looks like we do. We'll take our bolts here, and I did use, I think I mentioned this maybe already, I can't remember. I used a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on these bolts, ran them in and out earlier, and that just puts a nice light coat on, that is on both the bolt and the brass insert. That just helps make these go in smoother, and they're brass, so I'm not worried about rust per se, but 3-in-1 oil will also help prevent tarnish. So It's just a good thing to, just makes life easier. So we'll go ahead and get those started. So we've got our vise. It's nice and sturdy. Can secure it down. Everything's working nice and smoothly. Again, we put Vaseline here on the spiral shaft. So that's working very smoothly. Everything turns and spins very nicely. So we're all good to go there. Let me take you through the tools that went in to this project. Obviously, there's the drill. You'll see that in pretty much just about every project that I do. Pretty much everybody is going to have a battery-operated drill. An oversized screwdriver. It was really nice to get those brass inserts started. So that came in handy. I have an adjustable wrench. You saw me use that earlier. A pair of channel locks. I have a razor knife. That was when we were masking off the vise for painting. Regular Phillips head and a regular straight screwdriver. An assortment of drill bits. Piece of sandpaper, 120 grit. You saw me use that earlier in the video. Brass wire wheel. I actually have a box of these different sizes in that was really inexpensive off Amazon. I'll put a link actually in the description of this video to the set of, it's this set right here, and I'll put a link in the description if you're interested. And then as far as actual products, WD-40, you've seen that in past videos. 3-in-1 oil. I've always had that around that I used on the bolts that are holding down the vise. This is the paint that I used to paint the vise with, just regular old Krylon Color Max Paint Plus Primer. And of course, Vaseline, which I used on the vise itself. And Evapo-Rust, you'll see that showing up in a lot of my videos. It's just one of those staples. That is it. That is literally everything that went into this project. So again, I don't have a lot of fancy tools. I don't really need them. I can get by very easily with pretty much most any project that I take on. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something from this. If you liked it, hit that like button for me. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. It costs you nothing. And until next time, I hope everybody stays healthy, and we'll see you on the next video.